Okay, Nick Dutch continuing his little rant on chaos magic for the moment. As I was about to say, it's almost like there's a time in. If you haven't seen part one, go back and see it. Okay, basically, because it'll make more sense. And I'm only doing this between calls, so I have to stop the video, take the call, and so on and so forth. So you just got to get used to that. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, it's like there's a time in an occultist's life when they either haven't got the results that they were after, and they decided that it's all a load of bullshit, and then they go out and try and sort out their lives and build their relationships, build their careers, and have nothing at all to do with the occult or paganism or the New Age movement at all. And that's one direction they can go down. Or alternatively, they can go down another route, which is that of their own religious happenings, and they just want to be religious people in their own way and by their own definition, and that's one thing that people do. But the problem with that is that they've spent years and years and years and years and years telling lots of people, oh, this works, that works, yes, I can do this, that, and the other, when basically they can't. Okay, so there's all the people that they've really damaged or affected or influenced, who have developed beliefs as a result of what they've been told by these great and powerful chaos magicians, and there's no real attempt for them to progress, and as they do so, to speak to the newcomers to the occult and say, well, hang on a second, maybe I was actually wrong there, and actually showing enough humility to be able to do that. And they just don't do that. They sort of bugger off and leave the occult world completely. So that's also another massive negative. Or they can go down the route of just developing beliefs, such as once upon a time I was really upset by this. I did this training course with Phil Hine, and he didn't actually provide a detailed enough analysis of the phenomenon in question for me to rate or rank where he's coming from all that highly. Because he says, no, all you do is just focus on your symbol and spin around and it works. It works. Which would suggest that no matter precisely what the desire is, all you have to do is spin around while looking at the thing and chanting, and then hey presto, boom, it'll happen. Alright, so he's not even thinking about the mechanism of the older state of consciousness. He's not thinking about how your desire of whatever it is can be transmitted. He's not going through a detailed enough analysis of the states of mind involved, and anything else which might be causing the phenomena in question. He just said, it works. Which to me is superstitious, it's unintelligent, it's unscientific, it's unrealistic, and it's a bullshit statement. And on top of that, it will deceive people. All right, it just will deceive people. And it's phrases like that, without enough justification and rationale involved, from the people who are highly respected in the occult movement, or movements, which creates a lot of the problems. And it also makes occultists look like losers. Alright, because the lack of analysis is very, very strong. There's no real explanation there. Okay, a lot of these New Agers, occultists and pagans who I've met, come across, use the art and science definition of change and conformity with the will, which came out of the writings of Aleister Crowley, as the definition for magic, but they haven't actually thought about what Aleister Crowley was trying to say, namely life is the art and science of change and conformity with the will. Therefore, the word magic in that case is actually applied to your life. Alright? Your working life, your friendship life, your family life, your social, all that, life. Okay? And he was trying to encourage people to actually think about life and about what they do, so they don't end up doing the same thing time and time and time again, expecting to get different results. Okay? Alright, because the lack of analysis is very, very strong amongst the chaos magicians, and all the occultists, and all the pagans, and all the Wiccans, and all the Thelemites, and all the Golden Dawnites, and all the rest of that, because they're not explaining themselves properly. Right? And also, some people sell magic as being a form of weak prayer as part of a religion, because they're trying to draw you into their religion so you become another convert. You know, there's all kinds of peculiar and complex psychological dynamics and social dynamics which occur within the occult world. That really does muddy the waters big time. It is scary shit at times, and very annoying. Very, very, very annoying. So what I'm doing is me being someone in later life, right here, right now, Nick Dutch, on the camera, today, as well as the past 3 years of me doing my videos, is to be that person later in life who is turning around to that group of people, namely everyone within the occult movement of all denominations, and trying to point out where their mistakes of reasoning are. Okay? That's one of my tasks, like right now, because I think it has to be done. There's been things which I've experienced which are blooming incredible. I mean, seriously incredible, freaky, scary, exciting, spiritual, tranquil, all kinds of wonderful stuff I've experienced. Some of which you can get to by going to my channel page, using the search facility above my line of videos, and making a search for nearly anything occult, and you will find something which will stir your thoughts, hopefully. Okay? So yeah, that's a brief synopsis of why people within the occult world and the chaos world will try and distract you, will try and persuade you to do something which they think is not as important as what they're doing, which is a bit like the old ivory tower thinking. The other thing you got to think of is some of the people in the early stages, who are getting involved in the occult, and the fact there could be a wide spectrum of sanity or lack of it, or needs or neediness. Okay, so some people with seriously unbalanced minds who get into the occult because they've taken basically the wrong attitude, there's something wrong up here, the brain chemistry isn't working quite the way it should, so on and so forth. And so in that respect, yes, it would be worthwhile to distract some people. But what should they be distracted onto if they've come into the occult world because they've got needs that they want to get fulfilled? Alright, in that case, I personally feel it's a responsibility of the occultist to try and give them as a line forward. But that does depend dramatically upon how emotionally affected they are and where they're coming from. And most occultists will not have enough wisdom to be able to help people, to try and get them out of a particular mindset, or into the right school of counseling, or into the right form of or the right denomination of and social grouping of religion, which could actually be useful for that style of individual. They would have to actually be, highly skilled, intelligent, qualified therapists to be able to do that, which they're not. So can you trust the average occultist or spiritualist or New Ager to be able to do what's right for a wide variety of different people? Basically, no. So is there like a black and white, good and evil components to having let's say a chaos magician telling someone, don't get involved with this, just read some books on astrology? Well, it's difficult to say. I personally still think that that's unethical, because the right precedent, okay, the right forethought and attitude about what occultism is about has to be laid down first and foremost, so that people are not going to be deluded. That's why I did that playlist way back in my early days, looking 3 years younger, alright, which is called The Magician's Code, which is my views on basically on what magic is and the life of a magician really should be, and like when you should do what a good poker player does and fold, rather than carrying on and being involved. And so on and so forth. For crying out loud's sake, watch it. It's important. Right. What else could I add to this? Possibly a few more things, but I think you basically get the gist of where I'm coming from. occultists, magicians, witches, and all the rest of that, they do like to present themselves as being the great wise ones, don't they? You know, they just do. You know, I'm a wise witch, yes. I'm a wise witch, yes. I am a chaos magician. And all that bollocks. That's what they do. Partially it's because they watched too many episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, either when they had a fever or when they were taking acid, or, you know, or they can't separate fantasy from reality. They haven't done what all good YouTubers should do, and that's search for videos on logical fallacies so they can work out what's wrong with other people's arguments and what's wrong with their own arguments. You know, they haven't done this. Alright, and they spend all their time reading books by, you know, poor quality mediums or people who are trying to sell a religion, rather than trying to apply scientific reasoning. So are they getting closer to the truth? To the most part, no. They're vanishing into a fantasy world, and so there's lots of occultists who are just complete wankers. I'm sorry, but, you know, it's just true that there are wankers in the occult world, and that sucks, but we got to accept it. And those who are practicing occultists, like myself, if you can, you know, try and do something to change it. Just something. Maybe I'm a voice crying in the wilderness here in my own little right sort of thing, kind of speak, whatever. But change is necessary, and change has got to happen. And that's to all of the attitudes about what occultism is, what spiritualism is, what the New Age movement's about. The whole thing. Total spiritual transformation of what this movement is about, what this subject is about, what can be achieved, what can't be achieved, why can't it be achieved, why don't we know enough, how can we explain what we know, how can we be able to, you know, demonstrate where our points of truth and reasoning are coming from. Alright? And if you can't do that, shut the fuck up.